5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here come the Astros, burning with desire. Here come the Astros, breathing orange fire. Here come the Astros, with winning on their mind. Here come the Astros, number one every time. Go, go, Astros. We want Houston! We want Houston! Alvarez hits a high drive, center field. Beerling's back! This game is turned upside down!
And the pitch is lifted to right by Castellanos. Long run for Tucker, over toward the line, and foul territory. Makes the catch, and the Houston Astros do it again! 2022 World Series champions!
And now, Go Astros. Astros baseball from three guys who've been there since Art Howe had hair.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you all have the same hangover the three of us do, and most of it's not alcohol-induced, at least in Jim's case. This is Go Astros. I'm Andy Tomchesson. That is Brian Arbor, and our host emeritus, James Christopher, is here, returned from the wilds of Oregon, the West Coast, where he has spent the weekend without Wi-Fi service and without internet a lot of the time. So he got to experience Game 6 on a plane, and we all got to witness it when he got those little bursts of internet connectivity.
Right.
I want to talk about Game 6. We probably need to review the game that's about to happen tonight, but I want to throw some numbers at you, and I'm going to screw this up because I did this freehand this morning while trying to get caffeine in my body.
As long as you don't put it in your sub Google folder, we'll find it.
These aren't even advanced stats. 177, 254, 208. That is what the Astros are slashing at home for this series. That includes 17 hits and 96 at bats, with only 2 extra base hits in 3 games, and those were both in Game 2. Or 3 of them were in Game 2. 23 strikeouts, 10 walks. It's not a surprise why you don't win games at home when that's your production. And I guess the question is 2 questions. A, how much of that is Eovaldi and the other guy who we're not going to have face, Jordan Montgomery? And how much of that is just this thing that's in their head about playing at home all of a sudden? And all of a sudden really is for the second half of the season. And we'll start with Brian, since I just, used numbers, and you probably understand them better than I do, and you probably have the right ones.
Yeah.
I appreciate the numbers reference as always. The why to these questions is we don't know from the outside. It is probably just a slump. It's 3 games and it's 3 bad games, right? Now, obviously, it's more than that, as you talk about, because they've done this over a while. But the basic reason is, I don't know, there's no particular reason they should be better hitting on the road than at home. It's not a huge pitcher's park. It's not the hitter's park that it was in its first season. And there's whatever on the hitting background, but I noticed the hitting background doesn't change between innings.
No, that's just the wind machine. Yes.
Well, that's the air conditioning in the Astrodome, I believe.
Right. That's right.
Always the rumor of our childhood. So why? I don't know. Can they break out of it? Absolutely. Because we've seen them do that many times before. Part of it is, they have gotten the Rangers' best pitchers, the 2 pitchers who really performed in this postseason after 3 home games. So that's certainly a factor there. They don't get one of those on the start of the mound tonight. So that is sort of hopeful to that. So that's part of it. They're usually not this bad on offense, and they've been a really good offensive team over the last 4 months of the season. And so, at one level, there's every reason to think they'll do better than these numbers, because they have, and throughout the season, it's why they're among the top 4 teams in baseball. It's also 1 game, so will they break out of the slump on March 1st in a spring training game? Let's hope not. Let's break out of it tonight.
Jim, short of switching dugouts tonight.
If this were a football team, right, they'd be in a hotel, they'd be wearing gray pants, they'd be switching clubhouses. Look, I think Brian's right. There's two conversations to be had. Yeah, the Astros have not been a very good home team, but it wasn't always the offense that struggled in those losses at home. It was oftentimes the pitching staff. I mean, it's a team sport on both ends of the ball, but yeah, the last 3 games have been, if you go back to the Twins game, which I guess we are, if we're doing the math correctly, offense hasn't been great at home, but it has also been a lot of the pitching. And I'm cautiously optimistic because, yeah, tonight it isn't the Max Scherzer that we've all known, and it's set up to be a bullpen game. And it's very clear that Bruce Bochy trusts 3 or 4 guys. And I think, as Brian alluded to, we might see a Jordan Montgomery for an inning on 2 days rest. So who really knows what we'll see tonight? Everything on paper feels like it should be an advantage. So I have to think the only thing about it is got to be mental. There's no reason. The Astros have hit at home. The Astros have won game 7s at home in this run. So it's certainly not a batter's eye. And if making it bigger next season helps, but fine. But I just think it's a mental thing.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's the batter's eye when you have one team that has put up 2. Granted, there was a pitcher's duel in game 1, but then 5 and then 9 last night. Again, both teams have to hit with the same hitting background. I think it's effective pitching versus bad pitching. And speaking of bad pitching, I want to give Fromber props. He was not the disaster show that most of us were expecting him to be. And I think a lot of us came away, at least I did come away, feeling that if Kyle Tucker had, made an effort to go back to the fence, he probably leaves at least with a tie game in the 5th inning instead of trailing 3-1. Jim, I'll start with you. What did you take away anything from Fromber? I know you're looking at numbers at that point, but
no, I mean, he wasn't as bad. I will say this though, I'm obviously, most of my fandom came in a different era of baseball, or even 3 runs is too much for a starter to give up in a playoff game. Like, you almost have to expect everyone to be perfect. I hope we get to Kyle Tucker, because I think that is the bigger conversation in this episode. Next. But no, obviously I thought he pitched better. Again, I don't know what has caused his second half slump. I don't think he forgot to pitch, and I don't think it's because his eyelids are clogged. So it was nice to see him come out and be effective, even though I think he was still giving up too many fly balls. Considering 2 of them went over the fence, that makes sense.
Brian?
Yeah, it was a mostly effective start from Fromber. He allowed 6 base runners. The problem is 3 of them scored. 2 of them were balls that not much, but barely got over the fence. But it doesn't matter how far they get over the fence. It's also my Game 5 analysis. As long as they go over, that's what matters. So it's an effective start from Fromber. The bullpen was less good, but really, as we've identified here, the problem is the hitting. They scored 2 runs, and it's really hard to win a game, even under our 1986, perspective. It's hard to win a game with 2 runs.
Yeah, and I know I'm whistling past the graveyard a little bit about the final score, but the game was effectively over at 4-2 when Dusty waved the flag and put Montero in.
Yeah,
I think I got a text immediately from Dusty's quit for tonight from Jim. So good for Adolis for hitting a grand slam. It's fairly predictable what was going to happen at that point, and frankly, I'm a little surprised it wasn't more than just 5 runs in that inning. But Jim, you alluded to kind of the next topic. The bigger problem, and it's offensively, but it's also defense, is Kyle Tucker. Now, I don't want to pick just on Kyle Tucker, because if we're talking about hitting, Jeremy Pena hasn't hit in about 2 weeks. Chas McCormick hitting 300, but has missed big opportunities to blow games open and potentially win a game in game 2 when he had multiple opportunities to put runs across the plate. But Kyle Tucker is an all-star. He's a guy that has made noise about wanting big money, potentially in free agency and an extension. And the effort, and I know you can't judge effort from the television, but I think most of us can tell when somebody's running hard and when somebody's taking the slowest possible routes to balls, ground balls, fly balls, whatever, and then just being lost at the plate. He's in a clear slump, but apparently he's decided to take it out to the field with him for this series. Am I overreacting?
No.
I mean, are you seeing what I'm seeing, or
A friend of the show was at the game. I don't know if it was last night or it was game 2, but apparently he's not even like playing toss between innings, like warming up. He's just kind of walking out there. I think you see the effort. You saw the effort in game 1 that led to the first run, because that should have been a single by Evan Carter. Instead, it was a relatively lackadaisical approach, and Evan Carter turned it into a hustle double, which led to the first run. So,
well, Evan Carter is also a golden retriever, so there's that.
there is. He doesn't realize yet that, this is baseball. We take these things slow, but
162 days.
But it just does, because like you mentioned Pena, but for the most part, I know we had this problem with Pena in the regular season, but I feel like at least in the post office, his defense is still being played at an elite level. I don't understand Tucker. I know it's hard to be mad that he didn't rob a home run last night, but the home run would have been easier to take away than the one he did take away later. And it does seem like he took an uncharacteristically bad route to the ball. I did watch the replay. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. He can't even put the ball in play when that's all, in situations when that's all he has to do. And it's troubling. And I'm actually on the record as I don't know that you don't start Chaz tonight in this particular instance. And I'm sure Brian will have reasons why, but to me, it seems so in his head that maybe the best bet for him is to come in late in a pinch hit situation or work it out between now and the World Series.
My analysis is slumps happen, and this is a bad time to have a slump, but it's just a slump. Can he come out of it? Absolutely. We've seen him do that many times before. And, again, I hope we see it tonight rather than, April 10th next year. I'll take it April 10th next year too, but,
But Brian, do you feel the slump is explaining everything that we're seeing? I understand not hitting. We have guys that aren't hitting. There's more going on with that. To Jim's point, I think Astros Locker pointed out again last night, he's not engaged with the team. He's not playing long toss to warm up between innings. He's clearly not running as hard as we've seen him run in the past. I'm wondering if this is going to be, and I'm not excusing anything, but wondering if this is going to be one of those situations where we find out immediately after the season that he's going to go have shoulder surgery or something like that, where, I mean, there's something else going on. I can't imagine that anybody could be this much in their head at this point that it's affecting every aspect of their game. There are a million examples of players doing that, so I know I'm wrong, but is there anything else that you're seeing or anything the numbers are showing that we have hope for?
Kyle Tucker's a really good player, and really good players are really likely to get hits and doubles and homers and all sorts of good things. Again, that will happen at some point in his, that'll happen at some point. Again, will it happen tonight? I don't know, but I sure hope it does, because that would be really, really helpful. And I
still think that doesn't express the other part that we're seeing, Brian. We know he's not hitting. Yeah. He's also not playing defense. Yeah. And that is, I think, either a physical injury or a mental thing. But I also think if our analysis is going to be eventually he'll hit, there's really no point to do the show every morning. Sorry.
He's not hitting right now. It's a really big deal. Can he hit? The question is, can he hit tonight? Sure.
But I'm saying, would you roll out and would you consider going with someone who currently is hitting better? Or would you still say, hey, he's Kyle Tucker and maybe he'll be Kyle Tucker, so let's go be Kyle Tucker?
From the outside. Okay. From watching on my TV, I just roll out the best players the same way I do in computer baseball. If Dusty makes that call because he knows something on the inside, I would trust that for Dusty, but that is based on information I don't think any of us can know from the outside.
Well, and Dusty's not above reproach. I think last night was the first night I was really concerned about some of the moves he made. Now, in Game 5, famously, Dusty got thrown, and Joe Espada took over it from the bench coach role, managed the rest of the team. Pinch hits Diaz, as you'd expect Diaz to eventually get pinch hits. Should have happened sooner last night, and put in Jonathan Singleton. Jonathan Singleton drew a walk that brought Altuve up. We win Game 5. Last night, it felt like Dusty kind of said, well, that worked last night. I'll just try it again. Because I can't think of any other reason you'd put Jonathan Singleton in again in that position, other than you're going to hope he's going to draw another walk.
I mean, your alternatives are Jeremy Pena, He's big time slumping and hasn't hit a home run in 4 months, something like that. Chas McCormick against a right-hander. I can quibble with either move. None is great. So I don't have a big complaint one way or the other.
I would take Pena and
You couldn't.
McCormick
I should
over
note you
Singleton.
couldn't. You couldn't do Yiner in that situation, or more difficult to do Yiner because it's 2 outs, and Maldonado would lead off the ninth, as he did. So you've got to figure out your catcher situation if you pinch hit Yiner in the 8th.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have used Yiner in that situation. I still,
But I would have had Yiner in the 5th inning.
well, that's what I would have done. Yeah, I mean, to me, as soon as you go to the bullpen, you're also
Dusty is, and I've given up yelling on that one because we know it's not going to happen.
Tilting at windmills. Brian, I'm going to borrow a page out of your book. For their careers, Chas McCormick and Jeremy Pena are better hitters, and I would not have gone with John Singleton in that situation. I will say that there is a possibility that Dusty, for part of his moves, is playing chess instead of checkers. Maybe he looked at it, realized there weren't going to be any hits to come, realized that the Rangers were playing differently and wanted to save Presley for today.
Oh yeah, so I think that's definitely the case. Down to, I think that's a move to make it more likely that you're going to use Presley for multiple innings today.
Yeah,
and I think I'm okay. I'm okay with that move.
I am too, and I think especially with the concept that we might have Abreu today, which is a whole other dumb situation to be in. It does suck that you give up the grand slam because you don't make Leclerc pitch another inning, but I don't know that we need another inning to see how Leclerc is because we've pretty much knocked him around this series. So I don't know.
That is part of what I want to get into next because thankfully this is an important post-mortem show on the season. We do have a game 7 tonight. Scherzer is going to toe the rubber for the Rangers. And this is, I know y'all both tried to Baba Yaga me last night via text. This is not 2019 Max Scherzer. This is 2023 Max Scherzer, who even before he was healthy, wasn't all that effective this year. And you compound the idea that he's probably stretched out to about 70, maybe 75 pitches. And I don't know exactly what he's going to give you. Now, when we had this conversation last week, Brian reminded us, 60 pitches at that point was what we thought was that's effective in a playoff outing, or it can be effective as part of a strategy. But the strategy is if you can get Scherzer out before the 7th inning, you have to face the rest of the Rangers bullpen where the Astros have made hay this series. So hopefully we get a good Christian Javier who's going for the Astros tonight, but that's an advantage Astros to me. Where are you guys sitting on that this morning when you've had some chance to reflect on the fact that I told you you were both jerks and you need to stop worrying about
what did you say we were lame? I think you said your response was or something like that.
I was trying to go to sleep.
So, Andy, let me tell you this, that my fears about Max Scherzer are completely irrational on my emotional side, and the part of it that I want to, that is like, well, that's not how I should think about baseball, but of course, I've had this creepy fear.
Brian, I'm with you because don't forget the preface to Game 7 2019 was, he just had a cortisone shot. We don't know how good he's going to be.
Yeah.
But I agree.
And they couldn't hit him that night. Okay. So that is all my fears because, it's October and I have fears about, pumpkins and headless horsemen and Max Scherzer. People with strange head situations.
Oh, Jim Jordan? What?
We'd like to apologize to all our multi-eyed community out there that are. The last name is Arbor, A-R.
Right there, you can find me. My real email address shows up if you Google me. Anyway, I don't know that Scherzer is going to go long tonight and leads to the question we talked about for Bruce Bochy, which is he trusts 3 guys in his bullpen. He doesn't trust them all that much, but he's, gotten good work out of Sabores so far. And so one thing I think we'll likely see is that Jordan Montgomery would be in the bullpen tonight. He's been effective so far. He's left-handed, so that's a particular advantage against the pocket of hitters where the Astros have 3 left-handed batters, 5 in a row. So I would anticipate that. In general, the Astros have an advantage in the bullpen, and as I said before, not using Presley last night seemed to be a move to using him for 4, 5, 6 outs tonight. Then we'll see more of Presley. I'm sure we'll see Neris and Mayton only went 1 innings for the same reason. Again, we could get, I think that, it's possible they'll hold off on Abreu suspension because the precedent is the last time there was suspension in the playoffs, they didn't do it for Game 7. But on the other hand, that seems unlikely based on how everyone's been acting about what Adolis Garcia did in Game 5.
Yeah.
That whole thing just infuriates me. And I know it's stupid to get mad about it, but I don't think there's any universe where Abreu did that on purpose. And I think he was immediately like saying my fault as soon as but anyway, that's neither here nor there at this point.
I think the thing why if you're going to suspend Abreu, how much contact was there between Adolis Garcia and that umpire, which is apparently now okay.
Yeah, that I think is the biggest thing is you often see that the brawl starter is usually the one who actually gets the suspension and nothing for him, not only for starting the brawl, but also for, like you said, really pushing the umpire 3 or 4 times, trying to get him out of the way. We've been saying the whole time that the Astros clear advantage in this, that we thought the lineups were kind of a wash. I think that's proven to be that. We said the starting pitching was kind of a wash, particularly 1 and 2 versus 1 and 2, that the clear advantage was the Astros bullpen. And I do think that part of a 7-game series really will show that. And so I think the Astros have a lot of tools. I don't know that we've seen France in this particular series yet. If not, it's been really early. And so I think he just a different look for a couple of batters. I do think it's where obviously baseball's weird things can happen. The Astros seem very in their head about the building they're playing in right now. But if we're going off paper, then the Astros have an advantage in the bullpen. And I think Game 7 is usually all about the bullpens, unless you're AJ Hinch and it's 2019. If AJ Hinch walks into the building, then I'm done.
I think they took away his season pass. As an aside, because we probably should talk about it just a little bit, it'll be really interesting if Major League Baseball decides to enforce a suspension for a Game 7, because you're setting a precedent that I don't know they're willing to follow through on, which is just going to cause more backlash about, lack of competitiveness. If this were a Yankees reliever, would they be suspended for a Game 7? And I can almost guarantee you they wouldn't be. Having said that, I also have a huge problem with this entire umpiring crew for this series, because whoever has been behind home plate, and that includes last night with I can't remember, Jordan Baker, Doug Eddings, a host of others, there have been some just outrageous ball strike calls that just there's no recourse for a team. You can't argue balls and strikes on the field. I think you can send tape to the Major League office, and the Major League Umpires Association is going to go, "Yep, that sucked," and move on. It's so infuriating, and I do understand the romance of not wanting to take the human element out of umpiring and baseballs and ball and strike calls, but at some point it's going to cost a team that Major League Baseball cares about a series or a championship, and that's just going to damage their product because they're not going to know how to deal with it. So you take that group of people, that group of 6 umpires who've been umpiring this game, and saying their judgment is the one that we're basing the suspension on, the whole thing's very, very questionable. And I think Jim just died. Nope, it wasn't a heart attack. He just moved away. I am interested in how we're going to piece together the bullpen tonight, because I'm going to operate under the assumption we don't have Abreu tonight, and I think Dusty has to have 2 sets of plans. So clearly we need Presley to go 4 to 6 outs versus 3 outs. Neris probably moves up into that 8th inning slot, and I think the logical choice is probably Mayton to take the 7th inning role. I think the wild card here might be Hunter Brown, because he's a guy that the Rangers have had limited exposure to in this series, but also can throw 98 miles an hour past them. And they're very susceptible to the kind of fastballs he throws when he's on. And he's
been effective out of the pen, including in this series.
Yeah. So I think he's going to have a role. Bochy is going to be desperate enough to put Jordan Montgomery in on 2 days rest. That's going to be weird. I think he'd put Eovaldi in if Eovaldi said he had something to give, because there's a giant hole once you get past Scherzer before the seventh, and S'mores, who does not make the best Italian pizza in New York, Michael Scott. It also looked like they were trying to not pitch Chapman last night, at least as much as they possibly could, which was really interesting to me, because that was the big trade line or deadline acquisition before they started picking up starting pitchers. Do you guys see it differently? Is there anybody else we should be looking for the bullpen? I think Stanek and Montero both showed they're not going to get anything tonight unless we have to go to them.
I completely agree. I 100% am with you on that. And the Abreu thing, again, it's weird. I'm not a conspiracy theory person, but it does seem like most of these umpire scorecards that we've seen have taken runs from the Astros. I know it's usually like half a run or whatever it is, right? Whatever the benefit is. But I don't like the fact that Chris Young used to work his buddies with Rob Manfred, and that apparently the guy making the discipline decisions applied for the Astros GM job and didn't get it. Now, I'm allowed to be petty and silly. It's the playoffs, but the whole thing is weird. The whole thing sends a really terrible message. I think as far as the bullpen construction, I kind of agree with you, Andy. I don't think they're gonna suspend him for Game 7. I just think Dusty saw last night that it's best to have as many bullets fresh to go as possible, and I think you have to manage aggressively. Someone needs to reply to Dusty that if the Astros win, they've got 4 days off, and if they lose, they've got 100 days off. So let's not worry about saving anybody tonight.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the big question is what happens third time through the order? What happens?
Is there a penalty when you face people 3 times, Brian?
Yes, there is, surprisingly enough. So, hey, they've overcome it some other times here. But if they need to go to the bullpen in the 4th, 5th, or 6th, that becomes the big question. I think Hunter Brown's the guy in that situation. They could bring, I know James says they're not going to go to like Stanek or Montero, and they probably won't, but boy, they're veterans, and you know what Dusty really likes and has comfort with? Veterans. So I don't think that's out of the question, though. I think it's more likely we'll get something otherwise. But again, you got 3 good innings out of Hunter Brown in Game 4. And so I think he's a solution. And that, assuming you don't have Abreu tonight, you could go 4 outs with Neris and 5 outs with Presley, something like that in the 7th, 8th, or 9th. And obviously, I believe I would fine with they were setting up Presley for more outs tonight by not throwing last night.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to me because I think realistically the best case you can hope for Christian Javier, even with his recent rebound, is 5 innings.
Yeah.
That's what he's been doing all year.
Yeah, I mean, he walks too many guys, he nibbles a little bit too much, and unless the Rangers are just on full-on swing mode, it would be hard to see him going more than 5. So you've got at least a 2-inning gap that you've got to bridge to the back into your bullpen, even with Abreu back, and it's probably more like 3. So that'll be an interesting thing to see. What do you need to see? And I'll start with Brian on this. What do you need to see from the offense even early in the game to let you know that this might be a different night?
An extra base hit.
Low-hanging fruit. Good job.
But it's low-hanging fruit. But yeah, I mean, like, I think your number said 208 slugging percentage. They have a slugging percentage lower than their on-base percentage, which is, I feel like I'm in the Anchorman gif. I'm not even mad. That's amazing. But that's not true. I am mad.
It's not easy to do.
For me, I won't take Brian's, but I want to see work counts. The whole point is to get into their bullpen, and there have been way too many 6-7 pitch innings. Scherzer is injured. Scherzer, we all acknowledge, probably still has a pitch count of about 70 pitches. Let's let him throw 20 pitches an inning and get out in the 4th. Work counts. And I'm not telling Jose not to swing at the first pitch because we've seen it work too much. So everybody but Jose, work counts.
Yeah, I think that
Mauricio Dubon, work account.
Please. Your job is to work the count.
That was one of the most frustrating things for me last night, is that it was 25 or 26 pitches that Eovaldi threw in the first inning. And then for the next 3 innings, he threw 33 pitches. So whatever approach we had in the first inning, and it was certainly helped by some questionable ball strike calls from the home plate umpire, but we threw that out the window and just started hacking. And we don't hit well enough right now to just be hacking. I wish we had Chucky Carr right now. I think that would be fun. If you're just going to swing.
Definitely.
I did not expect a Chuck Carr reference on the podcast this morning.
Chucky hacks.
Got to play him an immaculate grid today.
All right, so we have Game 7, 7:30 Central Time tonight. I guess we close this out with predictions. Jim, you already get to make a new prediction because you had Astros in 6 prior to the series.
Look, and I'm going to put all the caveats in there, and I'm going to, before I even upload this episode, I'm going to run to Chick-fil-A and get my breakfast and do what we can do. My head says Astros win it. My heart and amateur psychologist wonders if this team isn't done. And I also wonder if karma and God and me saying that the last thing I wanted was the Rangers in the World Series. And I think I started saying that in like May. So there's a lot of factors going in. Let's just say that my head says the Astros win the game tonight, 6-3.
Ryan?
I am going to get my fill of terror and concern because this Saturday I am taking my child to the site of the filming of the movie Friday the 13th. It's because I'm taking him to a Boy Scout camp, which is at the same place.
Whoa.
So all my terror will be this weekend, including missing out on some World Series action by sleeping in a tent. And so all the good stuff will happen tonight. Astros 8, Rangers 2.
I need a ruling because for 3 games, the Frito pie worked. And I'm not going to go into why the Frito pie works, but it's 20-year-old tradition. This is an elimination game. I did have Frito pie yesterday. It did not work. Rangers scored 9 runs. Is it dead for the season, or do I have to go somehow get another Frito pie down my damn gullet today?
I think it's dead for the season. I didn't get to do the chicken yesterday for reasons, but I think it's dead. Like, I'm not putting on the same hat I was putting on so I think it's dead.
I'm okay with that.
I did not wear Astros gear to work on Thursday of last week. They lost the first 2 games. That's clearly on me. Back to the Astros gear every day. Andy, don't mess with the streak.
Streak's dead.
That's right. So
There you go.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have Chick-fil-A. All right, so I guess my prediction, I had predicted before the series that the Rangers would win in 7 for kind of the things we've seen, just a disappearing offense at various times, and unfortunately I was right. But because it's the hope that kills you, I'm going to go Astros 7, Rangers 5. But it won't be a walk-off. We'll be biting our fingernails for the last 2 innings.
Because that would be appropriate for the year.
So having said that, that's the end of our show. For Brian, for Jim, I'm Andy. We will talk one way or the other after this game and have another Go Astros episode for you just as soon as we can emotionally handle it.